Today, we're going to do something pretty cool. We're going to take one simple instruction from an ancient text and watch how it just explodes into this incredibly detailed set of rules. It's honestly a masterclass in precision. So let's start with that question. How specific can one simple instruction really be? I mean, this gets to the very heart of law, of communication, right? How do you make sure an instruction is understood exactly the same way by everyone, with absolutely zero room for error? Well, let's dig into a fascinating historical example and see just how it's done. All right, so our journey starts with a very specific rule from the book of Leviticus. When you're making an offering, you have to place your hand on the head of the animal. Seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? But for the ancient rabbis, those 3 simple words, they were just the beginning of a super deep and complex conversation. Okay, so this is the big question. What does on the head actually mean to these legal scholars? For the sages of the Talmud, this wasn't just a vague suggestion like somewhere around the head. Oh no, it was like a precise coordinate on a map. They felt they had to define its exact boundaries to make sure this incredibly important ritual was performed, well, perfectly. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Instead of starting by saying where your hand should go, they actually start by defining all the places it can't go. It's this brilliant process of elimination where they build the correct definition by first clearing away all the wrong answers. So the sages, they're looking at the text and they notice something. The phrase, his hand upon the head, shows up 3 separate times in just one chapter. And to them, that is no accident. They believed each repetition was there for a reason, to specifically rule out a nearby body part. So on the head immediately means definitely not on the neck, not on the back, and not on the breast. But wait, this is where the real genius of their analysis just shines through. See, it wasn't enough for them to just list these 3 exclusions. The Talmudic text goes a step further and explains why you need all 3. It's this amazing thought experiment. And this is the very question the Gemara, the core text of the Talmud, asks itself. It's like they're having a debate right there on the page. Okay, if you tell us not on the neck, doesn't that pretty much imply it has to be on the head? Why do we also need to be told not the back and not the breast? Okay, follow this logic because it's awesome. Let's say the text only excluded the neck. Well, you could argue, okay, that's because the neck isn't level with the head, but the back is level, so maybe putting your hand there is okay. Nope, that's why you need a second verse to rule out the back. But then you think, hang on, what about the breast? That's a special part of the offering used in another ritual. Maybe it's an exception to the rule. And bam, the 3rd verse comes in and shuts down that loophole too. It's amazing. Every single potential counterargument is anticipated and just systematically dismantled. And just when you think, okay, they've covered every possible angle, they go and push the boundaries of the definition even further. I mean, they've established it has to be on the head, but now they ask, what part of the head? Yeah, this is the next logical problem they raise. So imagine you're doing it. You're not on the neck, you're not on the back, you're definitely on the head. But what if you're on the side? Near the ears or the jaw? Does that still count? Is on the head just a general zone, or is it a super specific spot? Well, we get an answer. It comes from a teaching by a sage named Abba Biracha, and he clarifies that the verse implies the very top of the head and explicitly rules out the sides. So just like that, the precision gets narrowed down even more. We've gone from a general body part to a specific surface on that body part. And believe it or not, they are still not done. There's one final, really subtle question raised by Rabbi Yirmiyah. He asks, what if there's something between your hand and the animal's head, say a glove or a piece of cloth? Your hand is in the perfect spot, but is the contact direct enough? And this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. It's a principle called hatzitza, which basically means interposition. And the ruling is simple. The contact has to be direct, skin to hair. Nothing can come between the hand and the animal. This is to make sure that the physical connection of the ritual is totally pure and unbroken. All right, let's just take a second and recap this whole journey to precision. We started with just 3 simple words, on the head. And through this incredibly rigorous process, we've managed to rule out the neck, the back, the breast, and even the sides of the head. And on top of all that, we've established the contact has to be totally direct, with nothing in between. So what we're left with is this final, incredibly specific rule. Now, I know this might seem like a totally obsessive amount of detail for just one simple instruction, but if we stop and think about why this level of precision was so important to them, it starts to reveal something really profound about the whole legal and spiritual system they were building. Really, what we've just walked through is a masterclass in interpretation. It's all built on this core belief that every single word in a sacred text is deliberate and just packed with meaning. The whole goal is to eliminate any and all ambiguity, to make sure that a sacred act is performed with the absolute utmost intention and precision. It's all about getting it perfectly, undeniably right. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This whole exercise, it's not really just about animal offerings, is it? This intense focus on detail, this almost obsessive drive to close every loophole and define every single term with absolute clarity. What does that tell us about our human desire for order, for meaning, for a clear, direct channel of communication when it comes to things we hold sacred? It's a pretty powerful reflection on how we try to understand and execute the instructions that we feel truly matter.